So ever since the last video, I know everyone's been wanting to see the lift I kind of teased you about on my 2015 Subaru Forester 2.5i. So I want to show that to you here today. There it is, 2-inch lift on a 2015 Subaru Forester. Let's turn the camera on here in a sec and give you some details, but before we do that, I want to preface this by saying if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to put them down in the comment section below and I'll get back to you the best I can. I try and put links and stuff in the description, but sometimes that doesn't always cover the questions. And I do also want to note that this thing is not even close to done, so stay tuned. We'll have a couple more cool updates I think you guys are really going to like. So let's switch the camera around and talk about the details on the lift and where we're kind of going from here. So I got to give a big shout out to my buddy Jordan who helped me with this lift, and when I say help, I mean he's more mechanically inclined with this kind of stuff than I am, so he did most of the work and I was there to pretty much assist. So we completed this lift, which is a Anderson design fabrication kind of custom height spacer lift, or body lift you could say, combined with a set of King standard height springs, which are about a 30% increased spring rate, or 30% stiffer than the stock springs. We completed everything, which includes like the rear trailing arm spacers, your like multi-link spacers in the rear. The rear is actually pretty in depth. It's not like lifting like a Jeep or like a Toyota or something like that, you know. Because of the independent suspension, it kind of makes things interesting. But anyway, we completed this from start to finish in about, it was almost 8 hours on the dot. Everybody I talked to had quoted me like 10 to 12 hours. It was ridiculous. Dealerships and everybody was like, oh, it's gonna take 12 hours, which I thought was crazy, and some of them kind of agreed with me too, but you know, those are book numbers. So anyway, two of us, mainly one person, completed this whole thing in 8 hours, including a few hurdles. So we ran into some issues with the, come around the side again, with the front sway bar end links. Because of the winter and the 40,000 miles on this, they were kind of corroded and seized up, so we had to hack them off with a grinder, run to AutoZone and pick up two new end links. So it has brand new Moog greasable sway bar end links on it. So we had to go there, buy them, come back and do the cutting, so that's obviously some time. We also had some issues getting the front springs on because they're stiff, but also because of your traditional type of spring compressor where you have like 2 threaded bolts. They're a little bit too close to the strut top hat. I'll pop the trunk here in a minute. And because of that, we could not really get the strut top hat on with the spring. So we went to Harbor Freight and bought like a scissor style spring compressor, and that worked. It worked well. Well, it worked. It didn't work as well as I would have liked, but it worked nonetheless. So we got it installed. So that probably killed. We messed around trying to put that on for like at least a half hour. Then had to go get the spring compressor. Then we sat down and ate lunch and had a burrito. So 8 hours, including all that stuff, not too bad. I think one person who has the right tools, who knows what they're doing, especially if you had a lift, could do this thing in 6 hours or less. So let me pop the hood here and give you a few more tech specs. The grand total height of the lift is gonna be somewhere around 2 inches total when we're all said and done here. As you can see, the front of the top of the strut top here is marked ADF with a cool little kind of design. So what we have here in the front is a custom height spacer. Patrick at ADF, I believe is his name, does not usually make a 1.75 inch spacer. They're pretty set on their 1.5s and 2s, which I don't blame them. You know, 1.75 is kind of getting picky, I feel like. And I feel like I annoyed Patrick with my questions in really sticking to the 1.75 and not going with something that they pre-build. But I'm happy I went this way anyway. I really did not want to go over 2 inches on the total lift, because when you get over 2, you can start running into issues with the CV joints, and you really have to start worrying about other things there. So 2 inches in total, 1.75 inch spacer in the front, and there is a 1 7/8 inch spacer in the rear, so 1/8 of an inch higher in the rear. And then again, King springs, which are standard height springs, but even so, it's said that they add somewhere between 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch in height, so we're getting a little bit of lift from the springs as well. I think right now she's sitting a little high, and when we back this thing out after doing the install, here's the rear wheel. I was honestly kind of like a bit shocked how high it was sitting. I've kind of gotten a bit used to it now, and I like it, but it looks super, super odd to me at first. So it's been like a day, 2 days, so I think it'll settle a bit after a week or two, or maybe a month and some miles. But anyway, yeah, about 2 inches total after everything is all said and done. You'll notice in the front, I'm not running a mud flap anymore, but on the rear, I do have the Gorilla mud flap / gravel guard. So before even installing the lift, I was having a little bit of rubbing with the mud flap on the front. So when I lifted it, it actually got a little bit worse, which kind of surprised me. So it's really close to full lock, really. So what I did was I pulled the mud flap off because I didn't want to deal with that. It was really annoying. And I reinstalled the factory OEM splash guard. This is just a trim piece here. Sticks out a little bit, as you can tell. It gives you a little bit of kind of splash guard protection here. So it's called splash guard. They're kind of pricey. They came on the vehicle stock, at least on this one, so that was nice. And then I also trimmed the inner fender here. So this kind of came out a bit, and the tire was really rubbing on this area. So trim that off with like a little X-Acto razor knife, and we're pretty much good to go now. The rear I haven't done yet because I'm waiting on a few more plastic clips to show up. You know, every time you pull those off, they break, I feel like. So I'm gonna replace this too, just to have everything uniform. I don't really like the look of having a big old mud flap in the rear, even though it's partially functional. I don't really like the look of having a big old mud flap in the rear. And you can tell actually where the splash guard used to be. I've cleaned this how many times now, but it's still there. There's like a line right here where the splash guard goes. So I don't like the look of the mud flap in the rear and then a splash guard up front. So for that reason, I'm gonna pull off the mud flap and put the splash guard back on. So I think that'll be good, and it'll give me a little bit clearance here too, because this thing's just kind of low in relation to the splash guard. So anyway, I think that's about it. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll keep you updated the best I can. Impressions on the thing driving home. Yes, I did get an alignment. I have a lifetime alignment on this thing, so I can take it into Firestone whenever. I took it in. I'm gonna wait for the springs to settle and probably take it in again in another few weeks. The front was a little positive on the camber, which needs to be a little negative for factory spec. So I believe we can meet that spec once things kind of settle back down. So if they don't, I'll buy a set of camber bolts, but Patrick at ADF said I do not need to do that. So we'll see how it goes. The ride as a whole feels good. Everybody talks about the King Springs being like the most like firm, like ride on rail springs. Like they're very difficult to install and they're really firm. They were a little bit difficult to install, but as far as ride goes, I did not notice that at all. They feel good. They're good feeling springs. They're a little bit firmer. It doesn't squat in the rear or in the front as much when I'm accelerating and braking, which I really like. In the corners, despite being lifted 2 inches, it feels just as stable, if not even a little bit more stable, I would say, in the corners than it does compared to stock, which is awesome, because that's kind of one of my concerns there. It probably helps that the wheels are like, they're a plus 15 millimeters, so they're stuck out a bit more too. So the stance is a bit wider, but yeah, everything feels good. They're not too firm. They don't squat as much, so when I get weight on there and I get that spare tire carrier on, which, spoiler alert, I have a Wilco, hitchgate solo on the way. So it's a 2-inch hitch. It's the extended, comes up, swing out full-size tire carrier, because I do have a fifth tire, full-size spare, that is too big to fit in the trunk. So again, spare tire carrier, so that should be fun. I'm really excited for that. Throw some roto packs, fuel and water canisters on the back of that too, and we should be good to go. So I think that's all I'm going to give you for a spoiler now. I've got more coming. Something's going to replace that Thule roof carrier there. So let me know if you guys got any questions. Check you later.